Is this back lounge talk we're talking?
Yeah, I think we're there.
What happens in the back lounge stays in the back lounge, right, guys?
It could.
Or maybe not. Who knows? Yeah. I don't know. How much money you got?
Today, we have Tony Moon. He's toured for 37 years, working as a tech, production manager, stage manager, carpenter, and a rigger. He's worked for Ozzfest, Boston, Foreigner, Shinedown, Kid Rock, Megadeath, Shawn Mendes, Neil Young, Matchbox 20, Whitesnake, Velvet Revolver, Rob Zombie, and he's teched as well. He's teched for pretty much everyone. Bill Ward, Rick Allen, Rikki Rockett, the guys in Three Dog Night, Tommy Aldridge, Franki Benali, Jonathan Moffett, and seriously, the list just went on and on and on and on. Keith Marks has worked for Night Ranger, Survivor, Berlin, Enuff Z'Nuff. He's toured with Styx for over 20 years. His first tour was in the year I was born. Sorry, here to age you, my friend. 1977. My birthday was yesterday, actually, and I was born in 1977, Keith. And it was for Burt, Bacharach, and Diane Warwick. So when you guys get going on with a career, when you start to decide what you want to do, what are you going to do?
I don't know what I want to be when I grow up yet. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Dude, looking through your guys' resumes, I'm sort of like, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of touring. That's a lot of touring. So,
well, I never planned on that.
No,
Tony did. I didn't get up one day and go, oh, I think I'm going to spend the next 40 years on the road. It just happened.
How did it happen? So that's usually one of the ways to start. What was your...
Real quick for me, I worked at a music store. I was a guitar player.
Okay.
And, all that stuff. And he had a PA system, and that's how we did. The first run was Burt, Bacharach, Diane, Warwick.
Right.
And that went into, and it was a little community PA. I'm sure Tony remembers these big fiberglass boxes. You stack them up. So I took the PA out. I learned about PAs and things like that. First time I ever stayed on the road, and that rolled into, what was the next one? Jeff Lorber. Now Jeff had a sax player in his band named Kenny Gorlick. This is 1977, 76, somewhere around there. And that was Kenny G. First time I met him. Oh. And that rolled into Sonny Rollins. So it was really diverse working for a PA company. And that's kind of how it happened to me. He goes, hey, we're going to put you on the, get in that truck. Well, okay. I didn't go to college. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how then I started mixing bands. So from there, it just kind of took off. Tony can probably say how he started.
What's tough?
That's how it started for me.
Is it tough for raising two teenage daughters, or is it tough for working with the crew?
Dude, I was never home. That's another story.
Yeah.
Family thing.
It's hard, I would imagine.
We can get into that later. But,
all right, fair enough.
Yeah, it ain't easy. So,
Tony, how did you get into the business, man?
Dumb luck, man. Just dumb luck. I was still in high school, and I was just a big fan of music, and I had friends that were musicians. I was like in the school band, a drummer or whatever, but I was never really a musician. I played saxophone, but I still never really considered myself a musician.
Yeah.
I just loved music, big fan. So I started working with some guys who were, like their brothers or older brothers had bands, and, we would just help them out. And this was in about the same time as Keith, probably around 1977, something like that. I was still in high school. And then I started, and then these bands started playing. Back then you go into clubs and you'd play a club for a week. Like you'd load in on a Monday or a Tuesday, and you'd play 4 sets a night all week. And then on Sunday, Saturday or Sunday, you'd load out. So I worked with a couple bands doing that up and down the East Coast, and I landed in Cincinnati, oddly enough, and I met some road guys from Frank Zappa in 1984. So from 1977 to 1984, I did nothing but clubs, and I really, it was just a labor of love. You really didn't make any money doing that. Keith can probably attest to it in the beginning. The money never even really came into the picture. You didn't care. You just wanted to live the life. At least that's what it was for me.
Yeah.
And I got lucky. There was the guy who ran the recording truck. His name's Mark Penske. In fact, Mark was with us until last year, or maybe it was earlier this year. He just passed away. He was one of my dearest friends.
Sorry.
He ran Frank's recording truck, and he also did. He worked up at Frank's house, and he met me, and he said, "Hey, I want to introduce you to the production manager." His name was Ted Gardner, who later became 1/3 of Lollapalooza.
Oh.
And Ted's still around. He's in Australia. He's got a company called Larrick Management. He manages bands now.
Okay.
And they offered me a job. They called me from Europe and said, "Hey, our drum tech, bass tech just quit. Do you have a passport?" And that's how it began, man. And I did that tour, and I came home, and I decided I was going to move to LA. I moved to LA in 1985, and I never looked back.
When did you leave LA?
I left LA. I left LA a couple times, but the last time I left there was in 2001.
Okay.
I moved back to Florida, and I've been here ever since. But I lived in LA pretty much solid off and on when I wasn't on the road. Of course, back in the 80s and 90s, when you went on the road, your tour would last 6, 8, 9 months, a year. Sometimes you'd have a couple weeks between countries, and then you go back on the road again. I can remember at one point I didn't see home for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It was a much different touring dynamic back then than it is now. I mean, some bands that do tour like that, but not really. They'll do. It's not really an album cycle per se anymore because people don't really sell albums anymore.
Yeah. No, it's the downloads on Spotify or whatever. It's the songs now rather than the albums again, I think.
Well, they have to make their money from touring. They can't make their money from record sales.
Oh, there is
Styx
none.
will never come off the road.
Right.
Unless they decide to, I mean, it's just the way it is.
It's touring, merch, and publishing deals. Selling their songs for whatever. If some bands do that, some bands don't.
You guys seen some of these with the Stevie Nicks catalog? Neil Young just did. I mean, just crazy money.
Well, they're doing it now.
They're doing it right now. Yeah, they're doing
because they're getting older, and that's their retirement plan.
Yeah,
you're in your mid 70s. Bob Dylan just sold his for what, 20 million, whatever it was. He's not going to live forever. It's a nice retirement,
It's the new mailbox money.
Well, I guess it's the old school tit for tat trade rather than payment on the till. I guess what's his name? Tom Hanks did Forrest Gump. He took all the money on the back end. He didn't take any money to do the role.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, in hindsight,
I mean, at the end of the day, it worked out for everyone involved.
Good.
What happened. Everyone made money.
Is this back lounge talk we're talking?
Yeah, I think we're there.
What happens in the back lounge stays in the back lounge, right, guys?
It could.
Or maybe not. Who knows? I don't know. How much money you got?
Yeah.
I'll trade you.
Let me check CNBC here real quick. I'll tell you now. So just to jump on Tony's backstory, I started a cartage company in Chicago.
Right.
I got a call from Steve Rodby, who was the bass player in Pat Metheny's band, to move some gear. And he was tied into all of the studio guys. So this was 1982, probably. And I was still working at that music store, still making no money, taking the PA out, when it got booked, coming back, selling guitars, playing in my band, making no money. And all of a sudden I made a couple $100 in an hour. And I'm like, ding,
sure.
This is, and I got tied in with every studio musician in Chicago. They all used me. I was running from session to session to session. And I wound up at Gary Loizo's studio. And who was there? Styx. And they never let me go. That was it. As soon as they saw what was going on, they said, wait a minute, who is this guy? And Dennis and I talked to him the other day. I mean, it's a 40-year relationship.
Have you heard their new album? I was just reading. It's their first new studio album in 4 years. Is called Crash of the Crown, and they're set to release it June 18th. Have you had a chance to?
The title track, and Dennis sent me. He sent me his new record. Sounds great. It's for Styx fans. They get double. And they get Dennis's solo stuff, which sounds like Styx. They get Styx's new record, you know. So it's a twofer to get whatever they get. You know, I mean, they're it's a bonus for them.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to happen where they're going to get back together. So.
Well, usually these things happen when somebody needs the money, and then all of a sudden they get their own bus, and things change. So
I know that Dennis wants to do one last go around for the fans with the original band. I know that everyone has their eye on the Hall of Fame. You know, they've been at it for 50 years. This year, 72 will be 50 years since they signed their first deal, recording deal. And bands like that should be in the Hall of Fame. Boston isn't in there. Styx isn't in there. REO Speedwagon isn't in there.
Thin Lizzy.
They're getting there. They're getting there, but it may take some time. So
what do you think about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I brought it up in the last couple ones just to get people's take and what they think.
Well, Tony, you want to take that first?
You know, you hear what you hear. I don't really have an opinion on it. You know, I think it's great when people get inducted into anything where, you know, they're getting their accolades, you know, because they deserve it. You know, like he said, you know,
and before they die too would be nice. So
sure, you know, Styx, Boston. I mean, all these bands, these iconic bands from the pretty much the 70s. I mean, the music is timeless, you know. Foreigner, same thing.
Same thing.
You know, they're amazing. They had amazing skills of songwriting, you know, back before, you know, there was any Pro Tools or anything like that. I mean, it was, these guys were, I mean, they were cutting it, you know what I mean? It was done right. And they had true talent of the time. You know, and I think that I think whatever it is, I think they should be, you know, celebrated. I mean, I know that they only do so many every year. I think I don't really follow it, to be quite honest with you, because I like a band. I don't really care if they're in the Hall of Fame or whatever. But for a lot of fans, you know, it makes a big difference. And I think also for the bands themselves, it kind of breathes some new life into them. You know, if they haven't been relevant in a while, sudden people discover them and you see it trending or whatever. And I think that's good. I mean, I think that anytime that we are celebrating music for any reason is a positive, you know, because I think positive music is a very positive thing in life. I mean, if I didn't have music, I don't know where I would have wound up, you know, I mean, probably not in a good place.
Yeah.
You know, because people who tend to get in this business back then, you know, were, you know, bit of rebels, you know what I mean? Even now it's still the same, but it's a little bit different. There's some very, very smart college educated people that are now in this business in all different levels and different things. But to get back to, you know, your initial question, you know, I try not to have too much of an opinion of it, but, you know, I like to see people just be celebrated. Particularly very talented people that, you know, like Keith and I've worked with. I mean, we met each other on the Boston Styx tour. He was doing Styx, I was doing Boston. I think wasn't that the first time we met?
It was 07, I believe. Yeah. So I was lucky enough to work with two Hall of Famers in the Vegas show that I did. You know, Howard Leese from Heart and Huey McDonald from Bon Jovi. Both of them were in my show, our show. And I saw how important it was to them. It was just a validation that they did good work and they were recognized. And to them, it was, if I was playing in a big band and I had all this success, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame would mean something. You know, I think it really would.
You know, so I had a guy on here. His name's Martin Popoff, and he's I know really, you know him. He's a real serious music journalist, mostly for metal. He's written over 100 books, and he's actually a big Styx fan. So we were chatting about Styx briefly, and his take was interesting because what he said is it gives me something to write about, to talk about. You bring these artists back in the limelight, and as a music enthusiast, which he still is, it gives me something to talk about, whether better for worse, whatever. It brings relevancy back to those artists who haven't done anything maybe in a little bit. For that alone, I love it. It keeps the music alive. That was a really cool take. I thought that was interesting. I'd never thought of it that way before. You know, my take was, how how do they get in? Is it album sales? You know, because like in the Major League Baseball, it's ERA or it's how many home runs they hit, and they have statistics.
They're voting. I think they vote.
Well, they vote, but some of it, you know, and then you have Jay-Z's getting in. How's that rock and roll? So where does it stop where they need to make another place? But it's fun and games. And at the end of the day, if it does make a guy who's worked his ass off for 50 years, you know, get to play with a couple friends or relatives on stage, depending on what band, and enjoy themselves. And then as the consumer, we get to live it up too. Yeah, maybe a guy like me should chill out and enjoy it. So it was interesting what he said, made me change my mind. It was cool. The benefit of being a music journalist.
Yeah. And I saw Huey, because Huey was an anomaly, because Hugh played on every Bon Jovi record, from the demos all the way through everything, and was never a member of the band. Oh. And so technically, he really wasn't eligible. But John wrote a letter and said, this guy needs to be in with us, because he was an integral part of this band. You know, the other bass player got in as well.
Cool.
So they included him in it as well. I mean, he was the MVP, and now he's in the band. He's been in the band for a couple of decades.
Yeah.
But back then, it was the other guy. I can't even remember his name. But it's Huey playing those parts.
Were you a big fan of Boston when you went out with them, Tony?
Oh yeah, huge fan of Boston. I mean, you know, Tom Schultz he's a genius. He's a crazy genius.
Yeah.
Anybody who's been out there with him, you know, knows that he's a very unique individual. I mean, it still amazes me that he, you know, wrote all that, produced it, and recorded it in his basement studio in his house. I mean, it's insane to think that.
On a console that I think he built.
Yeah,
some crazy 18-track recorder or something. It was.
I mean, he's an MIT graduate, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I don't want to speak out of turn about Tom, but I have a great deal of respect for Tom. I love Tom. I would go back to work for Boston anytime. But you know, he's got, you know, I don't know how many patents. I think he's more than 20 patents in his name. For different things. I mean, he's an inventor. You know what I mean? He's just that guy that, you know, you'd never get bored of hanging out with or talking to.
That's neat. And I watched. They got some videos with Les Paul. And he's playing, and he'll bring. There was like one room, and it was filled with just massive rock stars. And he brought up, I think it was Billy Gibbons. And he doesn't know who he is. He gets his name wrong. And the interplay is fantastic, because Billy is a hell of a good sport when he's with one of his icons. You got to find it on YouTube. It's really fun to watch. It's only like 10 minutes or so. But they start playing something. He goes, you know how to play this song, son? And he's like, yeah, I'll manage. It was really cool to see. It was really good. You know, and then when Brian May gets up, he goes, oh, now this guy. This is Brian May from Queen. And he gets all excited. But the ZZ Top guy's like, okay, next, go get a haircut. Next.
Les, I had the pleasure of meeting him when Tommy and I went to see him at the Club Iridium in New York, because he used to play every Monday night. And we got to spend time with him in the dressing room while he was eating dinner between shows. And I think he was like 85 at the time. And just the sweetest man ever. And that's one of my most prized possessions, is a photo that Tommy made me. He goes, you need a picture. And so because I never asked for pictures. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
It's a rock stars. I'm sure Tony can relate.
I never do that. No. Never, ever. Never do I.
Tommy made me take the picture, and it's in my office, and it's so it was a great night. And he called Tommy up to play with him. And he goes, where's that Tom guy? And Tommy came up and played with him. And it was great. It was just a great evening. So
I toured for a few years. It's nothing like you guys, but I only have one. And it was because of that. We didn't have the camera phones that everybody's using so easily now anyway. But the only one I had was with the Stone Temple Pilots, and they all dressed in drag at a Halloween show. and I'm with them all in drag. And so I was born in Cambridge, England, and I wrote to them to see if they'd want to publicize my book, do any kind of thing. And they're like, well, you need to send us photos with you and all the rock stars. And I'm like, well, it's a short list because I'm not there to really take photographs with them. So I didn't really have anything to send. I sent them the picture of me in drag with all of them, and they didn't respond. I was done. So they didn't, no publicity coming from Cambridge, England. It was good. When you were out with Velvet Revolver, was when I toured with Scott, I never saw any issues. I was a kid though. I was in my early 20s. I don't think it was hidden from me. I think he was honestly being a good boy, but I didn't see the dark side of any of that. I know when he left Velvet Revolver, Slash had one of the best quotes. I'm going to say it maybe incorrectly a little, but it was, "We're giving him back to you the way you gave him to us." And I thought that was so funny. But did you have issues with Scott? Was he all right when you were touring with him?
Well, I never had issues with Scott. Scott was very private. I saw every aspect of Scott. I think from, I saw all the aspects that I can attest to.
Yeah.
I saw him when he was sober, when he was mostly sober, and I saw him when he was completely not sober.
Yeah.
So he went through in the beginning when I got there, I think he was mostly sober. And I think a lot of that had to do with, his relationship with Duff. Duff's the one that kind of found him in the gym or took him to the gym and saw him there and said, "Hey, we're starting this thing called The Project. You should come check it out." And I think that was how he wound up, being in the band. I think it was very turbulent. I think Scott had, he had a lot of demons. I think he was really genuinely a good guy.
Yeah.
I never had any issues with him because I barely had any interaction with him.
Yeah.
I think the person who had the most interaction with him was the band themselves, the tour manager, or the Sam Ricebridger who now works for Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
But he was like the dressing room guy. He was like he took care of everything, in the dressing rooms and backstage and stuff. And he had to deal with Scott a little bit. And of course, Scott had a handler that dealt with him. But for me, no, I didn't really, either he was there at Showtime or he wasn't.
Was it Heavy C or a different guy who was the handler?
I can't remember his name right now. I don't think it was Heavy C.
Heavy C's a really nice guy. I like Scott a lot. And I've only ever said good things about him. So it's always good to ask and to see what people have to say. Cause I think at the end of the day, or I know at the end of the day, he was a good guy. He was a really good guy. And I think he was a fantastic frontman. And he was also a Guns N' Roses fan. So when they recorded their album Shangri-La-Di-Da, they did it up in Malibu, and the next door neighbor to the house they were recording in was Axl. And so I was about to go out with Charlie Hernandez was hiring me to go out with Guns. And he was asking me all these questions about Axl, and I'm just laughing like, Scott Weiland cares that much. And I made this big deal. I'm like, oh, because Scott was playing tennis up at the house. Well, he's a very good tennis player. He goes, really? I'm like, oh, fantastic. And then he'd be like, he doesn't fucking play tennis, does he? I'm like, I don't know, man. Why would he bring me to watch him play tennis? What are you even doing here? We're not even hiring you. What are you doing here? So I had a good time with him. I liked him a lot. And his son recently came out with, I don't know if it was a song or an album, but they did it with a couple of the other kids from one of the sons of one of the guys in Metallica went on. It was really, really good. So high hopes, keep it all going, keep the fun and all of that alive. It was cool. So when I worked for Poison, you were a tech for Rikki Rockett, I read here. I remember with Poison, Rikki would throw the drumsticks up more than like anybody I'd ever toured with. Did he learn that from you, or was he still doing it back then? It was just, he could have been a juggler.
No, he did stuff like that. I was with him from 1987 to 1989. When I started working for Poison, they had sold about, I think, 100 or 150,000 copies of the first record. And when I stopped working for them 2.5 years later, they had sold 15 million copies. So I watched them go through the whole gamut of, of rising. When we started, we were opening for Ratt. And that's actually, in fact, Charlie Hernandez was the production manager for Ratt at the time.
Oh.
So, and Opie was the lighting crew chief, who now
I like
does.
Opie because we're fellow redheads.
Opie's awesome.
Yeah, we're fellow redheads.
Yeah,
and
Opie.
And so Keith sent me his resume, which I thought was great. Everything was spelled correctly, which was one of the first. Everything was spelled correctly, and he had his references, and the first one there was Opie, and I was like, oh, my fellow redhead from touring. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Opie's kind of he's one of my mentors. Him, Charlie.
Or not Keith, I'm sorry. Or Tony. It was Tony who sent me his resume.
Tony, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. No, Tony
That's
sent
all
it
right.
to me. But everything was still spelled correctly. I'm sure Keith spelled correctly too. I don't know.
I'm a real stickler for, like even when I type emails, if I make a mistake and I hit send and I read it, like I'll read it after I send, I'm like, oh, damn it. I made it, and I try not to do that. I think it's important because there's a lot of people now. It's so funny because kids will send you the resumes, and like things aren't capitalized. And there's no punctuation, and there's one sentence that's that should be 3 paragraphs. That's one. You know what I mean? It's like everything's run together, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Nobody's even going to read this.
Yeah. My one I'll do is I'll send the email and it says, hey, Bob. And I meant to send it to, hey, Keith. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to look like such an idiot. Those are the worst ones.
I do that with text messages. I send it to the wrong person. I'm like, oh, God, I hope.
My problem with the text messages is I'll be trying to send a text and then the phone will call the person. Be like, hey, man, it's like 1 a.m. I know I meant to text you on this stupid phone, man. And I do that all the time. So all the wonderful inventions. Did either of you ever tour with Rigger Dan?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, he was Opie's rigger. We did some Ozzfest together. If it's the same Rigger Dan you're speaking of.
It is. Yeah, it is. I just wasn't.
Yeah, no, Rigger Dan was amazing. I mean, he was a great guy, and when he passed, it was a huge shock. I was there, with Opie at the time because it happened on our watch. I can't remember if it was Ozzy or Sabbath. I did about 5 years in there with Opie doing between the two.
Yeah.
It was tragic. Yeah. I mean, just, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what, are you kidding me?
Yeah. It was
not a joke.
Yeah. I made a film and I dedicated my film to Dan, and his mom and his sister came out and they watched the film, and it was cool. Yeah. Try to do your best. I'll talk to his mom when I can. I try to reach out like once a year and catch up with her. Such a nice lady. And so he was like a tough guy, this guy. Did you know who I'm talking about, Keith, at all? Or?
Yeah, I think we've crossed paths, but it was never it was more of an acquaintance.
He was nutty in a fantastically wonderful way. I had these great conversations of just like, seriously, what the hell are you talking about? Where did you come up with this? Just a really fun character. And there's a lot, and that's why some of these I've been trying to bring up from what little I know from my few years. There's some of these guys that aren't around anymore, just so we don't all forget them, man, because they were great, colorful figures that made, your career is that much more interesting. Was hanging out with these guys where you had one line here, Keith, you're doing this show or did the show Raiding the Rock Vault. And I read this interview and it said that you handed the musician the instrument and said, here you go, play the right notes.
Oh, that's Howard. Yeah. I was second for Howard. It's like, what are you going to tell a Hall of Famer?
Play the right notes. But I love the idea of it. Keep it simple, man. Here you go. Run with it, my friend. Run with it.
Yeah.
So a bit of fun.
Haunt me forever. That one and the one about selling shoes.
What was the shoes?
Somebody asked me, why do you stay in this business? I said, well, when the lights go down and the band hits the stage, you just don't get that feeling from selling shoes. It just doesn't happen. And Tony knows what I'm talking about.
Very true. There's nothing else like it, man.
No,
I mean, it's, the business, I mean, as far as business goes, I mean, what can you say? It can be a very harsh business, the business that we're in, not just the lifestyle, but just, just having to deal with everybody you deal with every day. And, some people are better at their jobs than others. You treat everybody the same.
Yep.
Some people like you, some people don't. We have no union, there's no it's just sort of like a handshake etiquette type thing. Our whole business is
and we have to self-police. It's
yeah, absolutely.
and especially when you're on and I wanted to bring this point up, when you're on a co-headlining tour, it's guys like Tony that make it easy, because there's a level of respect, because there's going to be, and especially on a tour where you're flip-flopping. We didn't have that with Boston, but Tony and I got along great. At least I think we did, because everybody knows their job. And I've done a million where they're flip-flopping, and as long as the other production manager's on the same page and has some level of respect for what we're trying to accomplish at the end of the day, it goes miles. And Tony and I, we'll be friends for a long time until one of us leaves. Right. And I remember people like that. So the first time, when you said, "Hey, who would you like to do it with?" Tony, he's a great guy. And a great production manager, by the way, because I steal from everybody.
Yeah.
Coming from you, Keith, that's big, man. Thank you so much.
It's much appreciated too.
When we toured together, I was amazed, because Boston is full of all kinds of surprises. And I definitely had my work cut out for me on that tour, especially putting together the whole thing at the beginning. Yeah. It was kind of crazy the way the whole thing came together. But then when Keith came in, I was like, oh boy, Styx, and I'm a huge Styx fan. I mean, I can remember when I was in junior high school, listening to Styx songs on the radio. And I just, it was so cool. And then all of a sudden here is this band. I can't remember. Was it technically a co-headlining tour? I don't remember.
It was. I think
we treated it like that. We treated it like a co-headlining tour.
You guys always closed.
Right. Well, I think it would have been pretty hard for me to get all that off the stage in 30 minutes and get you up and running.
No, wouldn't have happened.
It was crazy. But no, the first thing I thought was, wow, this is a tight ship. These guys have it together, because you did. I mean, it was running like a top.
I had a great crew.
Everything. We had a good time on that tour. I still have that picture hanging. What used to be my office, now it's a second bedroom. Up where we took the picture in Alpharetta. Do you remember that picture?
You mean this one?
I have it matted and framed. I might just have to take my computer in there in a minute just to show it to you. I had it matted and framed, and it's
nice.
Very, very cool.
No, it was a good time. I mean, that was a tour that I'll always remember. We did a million with REO Speedwagon, but one with Boston, because they kicked ass every night. I mean, to see Tom Scholz and me, I was like a little kid.
Sounded just like the record every night.
Huge respect for that band, and for Tom, just like Tony. But the crews really gelled. So a few bumps in the road. When we started off, but it wound up being a great experience. It really did. And obviously, Tony's a great production manager. So it starts at the top.
Oh, two such good band, to take it down a notch. Sorry, guys, but Come Sail Away, right? I'm in high school, such a great song, loving it, listening to it all the time, Mr. Roboto. And then I went to a strip club. I'm 17 years old, and she danced to Crystal Ball. And I'm sorry, but Crystal Ball is the best Styx song now ever, guys.
Well, yeah, that'll be. But I saw that band play in a club in Chicago, because I'm from Chicago.
Oh, wow.
6 people. And I brought 4 of them.
Wow.
Because I heard the first record, I thought they were cool, and went and saw them. And they played like they were in an arena. They played to those 6 people mattered to them. And I saw them at a supermarket opening on a flatbed truck. This is all before they hit.
Yeah.
They were kind of a big deal around Chicago, but I saw how hard they worked. And I was honored to work with them for as long as I did.
I saw one of the singer, and he tours with his wife, and so he was
Dennis,
and so he's singing the songs, and he goes, all these are about her, and he meant it, and you kind of that was nice. That was such a nice touch, because I looked, I'm like, oh, how cool is that? Neil Diamond. I saw Neil Diamond years ago, and he's like, my mom. Where's my mom? Where's my mom? He goes, this This is my first #1 hit, I think it was. And he goes, this is about my mom. And she's right there. Hi, Mom.
Well,
and I love it when you can make it so personal. So great. This is about my grandma. It's called Coming to America. And you're kind of like, good God, man.
Oddly enough, in 2016, Dennis DeYoung was the support band for Boston on that tour we did, the 40th anniversary tour. And I tell you what, when I met him, I was like, this is like one of the funniest guys I have ever met in my life. What a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so positive and upbeat and just funny, you know?
Yeah.
I'd never met him before. So I was kind of awestruck because I knew that was, that's the voice of, the Styx songs that, that I grew up on.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And he's crazy.
Hell of a singer. Because I was in a place called the Canyon Club in LA. It's a venue here. It's a smaller venue. So watching a guy like that in a smaller venue belt those songs out was
in the original keys.
Absolutely
in the original keys. So does the original band. So does Styx. They haven't dropped the keys yet. But he's still got it, and he's still a great guy. And we talk all the time, and I wish him the best. I hope he's happy. When you
did Three Dog Night, were you out with David Morgan? Is that before him? David Morgan.
I think it was me. You're talking to Tony, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if Keith, did you do Three Dog Night?
Nope.
No, I think I did Three Dog Night. It was right after I moved to LA. It was one of the first gigs that I got. I think it was 1980. It was 85 or 86. But no, I'm trying to remember the guys in the band. The guys in the band were great. So Corey was there. Danny was there. Chuck was not there. He was the only. So it was two dogs.
Right. He replaced Chuck. Chuck's the one who passed away, right?
No.
No, Chuck's still alive. The other two have now passed away.
Okay.
The two guys I worked with are gone, and Chuck is now the only surviving guy.
Okay.
Which is ironic.
So David Morgan's been singing with him. He replaced one of the guys who passed away, and he's been with him for like 15 years. And I actually released
Corey, I think, because I think didn't Corey pass first, and then Danny just recently, like in the last couple of years. I think. I'm not sure. I could have that backwards.
I'm just amazed that Chuck is the last one standing.
Yeah. Me too, because we've all heard the Chuck stories.
Read the book. Yep.
Yeah.
Read the book.
He lived a little.
Yeah, he sent me the book. It's amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a great experience for me. There was just two of us on the crew doing the whole band, and doing everything.
Oh,
so
I've been there. That's how we started with Night Ranger.
And driving the truck.
That's the only thing I didn't do. Yeah.
Drive the truck. I wanted to go with the driver of the truck one night just to check it out and see the road. And Charlie, he wouldn't let me. It's like, you're not getting in the truck with that fucking guy. Is there something wrong with you? Get in the goddamn bus and go to sleep. Okay, sorry, sir.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Don't argue with Charlie.
No,
I still fear him, and I haven't seen him in many years, but I definitely fear the man. But I fear him out of love. He helped raise me for real. He taught me things that will be a part of what made me, I don't know, for better or for worse. I'd like to think better. I try to be a stand-up guy, but he was an absolute second father to me. So I hold him.
He always treated me fairly when we came into one of his shows as a support act. So I can't say he's a legend, Yeah. He's been around forever.
Yeah. Everybody, does he have a real sweet side? And I used to be like, well, don't piss him off. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. So be good. Everybody's
reminds me of Jake. He reminds me of Jake a little bit. Jake Berry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good guy. Another good guy. So, a couple fun ones to see if it goes anywhere. But what are the oddest people you remember seeing on the guest list of like, wow, that guy would want to come see this band? Anything ring a bell? Tough one.
I need a minute.
Well,
I need a minute to think about that.
Well, I can.
Lisa Marie Presley.
Oh.
For who? Who does she come want to see?
Kid Rock.
Oh, I love Kid Rock, by the way.
And it was in New Jersey, no doubt. It was in Homedale, at the
PNC.
At PNC. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the PNC Art Center. When I'm back in 2000, but it was the father, the grandfather, the granddaughters, everybody worked together to get you in, get you out. And they were the nicest family. They were such good people. So it was always one of my favorite venues because I knew when I'd go there, it's cool to be with like genuine family, all helping you with a big smile, by the way. Fantastic people.
It's the home of the super ramp.
Yep. That's right. I tried to take that ramp one night.
Where would you put it?
Well, that's the thing. I was trying to figure it out, but I was teasing him. I was like, I still have a scar from that ramp on my leg.
I bet.
That took me out one night.
Well, I broke my foot at that gig.
Oh, no. How'd you do that?
Yeah. So as Tony knows, I'm super anal about cable runs.
Okay.
And we were flipping from REO Speedwagon into Styx, the changeover, and there was one cable running downstage. And I'm like, whose fucking cable is this? And it was one of the guitar techs. And it was to his Bradshaw, whatever. And I had everything running, off stage under a piece of Marley, taped down. Everything was great. And there's just one cable. So I go, what is it? So anyway, he didn't have time to do it. So I grabbed the cable. My foot got stuck between the stage and a sub. And I went over. And my foot, yeah. Thank God there were people in the front row that caught me, and my foot literally broke. I only broke 2, but I still got the band on stage. I taped the cable down, and I'm hopping on one foot, and I got the band on stage with flat, and they're all looking at me like and I went right to urgent care, and I was home the next day.
You were like Gandalf with the cane there.
Well, this was bad. I missed surgery by that much.
It hurts. I threw my back out a few days ago. I've been hobbling around. How does it feel on your birthday? I'm like, it's not the best time to ask me that. I can barely walk right now. It's actually a roadie friend. She's got to move. So I was helping her. Oh, the back stuff's nightmare. It's terrible stuff.
Trust me, I've had it. I've had neck stuff from jumping off stages.
Oof.
So.
All right. So there's any other fun people on the guest list that was.
I'm trying to think of the woman race car driver.
The lady from GoDaddy. A little PR there. What's her?
No, not her.
No, not a different one.
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. She would the quarter miler, whatever you drag. They had a movie about her. Heart Like a Wheel.
Where's Mark Hogue when we need him? He would know.
I know. I can Google it real quick.
He would know.
But she was awesome. She was awesome.
Got to put a name with it. Come on, Keith. You can do it.
Danica, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Danica Patrick, but that's not her. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is embarrassing.
All right, so you're looking it up. Strangest Things on Ryder.
Oh, God.
I don't know. There's a little bit of everything on different for all people, I don't know.
We had one. It was on STP. We had Yoo-Hoo, and the Yoo-Hoo had been on some other tour. Nobody drank Yoo-Hoo. Nobody. So we just kept putting it under the bus every day. So finally, I'm like, maybe I'll try one of these things. So they're really good. It's just sugary milk. And so I started drinking it every day, but I was real quiet about it because I don't want anybody drinking all this Yoo-Hoo because I knew about it now. So I'd loaded in the bus. And I forgot who did it, but somebody started trying the Yoo-Hoo and they're like, wow, this is pretty good. And I'm looking at them like, whoa.
I get a whole bunch of your
Oh.
Don't steal my Yoo-Hoo.
Don't tell everybody. They're all going to drink this stuff, But it'd be great because no one had updated the rider. Nobody bothered to look. Nobody cared. So it was the same rider from the previous tour. It was good.
Shirley Muldowney.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
Tony
would go see.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. 4-time whatever drag racer woman legend drag. To me, that was kind of cool.
Oh, it's totally.
We can only keep so much stuff in our brains, Keith. Otherwise, you got to get rid of something every once in a while.
Hey, I'm pushing 70. Give me a break.
Tawny Katane. It was odd. I had actually just on LinkedIn. I just contacted her, and it was about maybe coming on, and then she passed away like out of nowhere. So, did you have any meetings with her when you were working with Whitesnake?
Me? No, I never met her, and that was something that you just never, nobody ever talked about that.
No. Okay.
On Whitesnake, David's a super nice guy, by the way. David Coverdale.
Yeah.
Super, super nice guy. Probably one of the nicest English gentleman guys I've ever worked for.
I loved that Coverdale Page album. I listened to it so many times. It was so good. That guy can sing, man.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he can still sing. I mean, he still sings, better than you think he would for his age.
Yeah.
But I think he's figured out some things and how to work around it. I do think he's dropped some keys. I think he's dropped a half step or so. But hey, at least he's still out there doing it. I really enjoyed. I did 2 tours with Whitesnake. I really enjoyed working with David. Great guys, great band.
Everybody in that band together. Everybody, every time we run into them, Tommy Aldridge and Joel, and even when Doug Aldridge is in the band. I mean, this is quality people.
Yeah,
good guys.
Oh, cool.
Actually, my wife went to work for him a couple of years ago.
How did that go?
That went well. Actually, I got a phone call from Gideon Hogan, the tour manager, and he said, "Tony, I'm considering your wife for this, mate. And I said, are you okay with that?" And I went, "Yeah, man, that's great, no problem." I said, "She's wonderful. She started working with me on Kid Rock, and then she went on to do Whitesnake on her own without me being there." And then we just finished 17 months with Foreigner, right when this whole pandemic went, took everybody off the road. Then
what is she doing? What's her role? What's she doing?
She helped me for a long time. Like, she would help me with the catering, advanced catering, because it's just something that usually my production coordinator would do. And there was a couple tours where the production coordinator just kind of refused to do it, for lack of a better word. And I was like, well, okay, great, I'll get it done. And so I kind of put it in her lap, and she started doing it. She started advancing the dressing room writer and everything else. And then she came out on the road with me on Kid Rock, and she liked it. And she wasn't, we had sold our business here that she had, so she wasn't doing that anymore. So her and I we've been touring together now since 2015.
How cool is that?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super awesome.
When we can make it happen, it's great. Most people don't even know when we go out there, people don't even know we're married. So that's what you want.
And that's why it works.
Keith can attest to husband-wife teams where it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
That was harder.
There's a few. Yeah. There's a couple of those. But hey, if you can make it work, it's wonderful, because there's nothing worse than being away from your spouse or your children. I mean, I don't have children. Keith does. He can attest to this. But it's heartbreaking at times. I watch guys go through absolute misery because they miss their family. And I feel for them. And it's like you try to do things for them and try to make them enjoy their life on the road, which we all know. If you're going to be on the road, you have to be happy on the road, because there's nothing worse than a roadie who is not happy. Yeah. Because then nobody's happy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I've been both. I've been happy and I've been unhappy. So.
Yeah. Me too. I got snapped out of my unhappiness by, believe it or not. Do you know who Greg Price is?
Sure.
I mean, Greg Price. Joel, do you know Greg Price?
Yeah, I think I've written to him. I think I'm going to have him on here. I have to.
One of my dearest friends. I love him to death. He and I have known each other for a very long time. We started working together back when I was with Poison. And he stopped me one day when we were, I can't remember. I think we were doing Sabbath or Ozzy. And I used to help him fly his side of the PA. And he stopped me one day and he said, "Hey man," he goes, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, Are you not listening to yourself? And he started talking back to me stuff that I was saying. And I'm like, wow, do I sound like that? And he goes, yeah. And I can never thank him enough for that, because sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it, and I wasn't a production manager then. I was a drum tech, and I was kind of Opie's kind of head back line wrangler kind of guy. And yeah, sometimes you need a check,
Oh yeah.
I think at a certain point you get it and then you don't fall back into that. But I think when you're younger, you can really get disillusioned and start to fall into that. I think it can happen to anybody.
I think it happened to anybody too. It's human nature to have your ups and downs and maybe a little bit of
priorities too. I will never, when I tell kids that are coming up into this, because I did mentor a class at Belmont College in Nashville, and these kids are just so wanting to get into this whole lifestyle. I said, do not make the band your priority. Make yourself the priority, make your family the priority. The band is employment. I was gone so long once because Tommy and I were off doing Damn Yankees. I wasn't home for months. And my wife says, why do you bother coming home? That was my check.
Wow.
And that was like, wow, why do I bother coming home? Well,
yeah, that's hard.
You're right. Yeah. So, that's my one regret is not putting my priorities in the proper order. I put the band.
Well, it's hard though. You have to pay the bills too. So
you can do it. You can do it all. I'm telling you, and still, keep your priorities in check. Yeah, there's a way to do it. I couldn't do it. I mean, it was, that was always my top priority. What were your daily duties on Guns N' Roses?
Kind of Carpenter, I think, was the official role, but whatever the hell Charlie wanted me to do, I just run around doing whatever.
Awesome.
I've heard this from, I'm sure Keith has too, heard it from many different people saying, a lot of guys are just, morphed into other things and they're not going to come back.
They're not going to come back.
No. And that's from a touring perspective and also from a local perspective, which means that next year, I don't think that this year, I don't think touring is going to be back at a point where we can say, we're back. I think it's going to be next year. I think this year it's going to be a slow crawl and it's kind of a test phase.
They're going to test the waters. Yes. Right.
And it's already happening. It's happening, particularly with country artists. They seem to be, hitting it pretty hard from what I've read, just tours going out, but there's some rock bands going out, some different people doing things, but there's also, it's a bit of a changing of a guard. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I've thought about it. I mean, I've done other things. I have done other things and I keep coming back to this. So I kind of already know that, I'm going to do this probably until I can't do it anymore. I'm hoping I have another 10 years. If I make it another 5, I'll consider myself lucky. But this last 14 months has just been a kick in the head. So, for instance, I put a note out there, on my Facebook page, hey, look, if anybody is having any problems, if you just need someone to talk to, whatever, reach out, someone, reach out to me. If you know me, say hello. There's a friendly voice on the other end of the line. You're not alone in this, because this has been a real mind check for anyone in this business. You know what I mean? Some guys went back into like a construction business that they had or something else. Some guys haven't done anything. Some guys went to work for UPS or the post office or FedEx or whatever.
They're not coming back. They're not coming back.
Some of them are not.
Will, but a lot of them are not. And
right.
if my phone rings later today with something, I may take it. I don't know. I may head out. I may hire Tony. And say, I'll work.
I'm ready, man.
Yeah. But it's just, who knows? I'm not gonna say never.
Yeah.
I did enjoy my time in Vegas because I didn't have to load out. I didn't have to tour, so there's still possibilities out there.
There's always a new day. There's always something to be positive about. All right. So many bands you guys have toured with. It's really, between the two of you, it's pretty seriously incredible. What songs would you love to hear just one more time live?
The last one.
Yeah.
What songs?
I have ones that are standout. That's why I thought it, that I just loved listening to. I actually don't know the name, but like Godsmack, Sully would do this 15-minute version of "I'm just doing the best I ever did. I'm just doing the best that I can." And he'd go to every instrument. I just thought it was so cool. From the first time I saw him do it till, oh God, the 50th time or whatever. I don't know how long we toured. I can't remember, but watch every time. I love watching that. I really enjoyed it.
I think he still does that.
I'm sure he does, because I
just did the Shinedown Godsmack tour in 2018.
Okay.
And I was working for Shinedown, but I was the advancing production manager for both bands. I advanced the shows, and that was
was Colin out?
No, Colin West.
Yeah, was he out on that one too?
No, that was just me. Nope.
They're great performers. They were really fun to watch. I enjoyed them a lot, and they're such good guys. That's the one thing too. It would change. You go on tour and like, that band, I heard them on the radio. They're not interesting. And then you meet the guys, and you're kind of like, oh, these guys are the best band in the world because they're such nice guys and everything. And then you want to make them better. It's a good feeling when you start to genuinely like the band, the music, everything about it, and then
what a double bill, Jesus.
The what?
Yeah, what a double
Sully
bill.
is a talented guy. Sully's a really talented guy. And
Kid Rock, you want to talk about, how many hit songs can this guy do? They just keeps churning them out. It's incredible. What a catalog.
He's got a catalog. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah. Detroit. Did you guys ever, do you remember there was a roadie there who, he wasn't a roadie, he was a stagehand guy, and he had this big beaver tail hair?
Yep.
Is that guy still around? What's his name?
The DTE. Well, at Pine Knob. I'm sure Tony remembers the guy. He had like this thing down to his knees. This dreadlocks, I guess it was. It
was like a matted beaver tail.
One matted piece of hair, but he cut it off.
Yeah, I remember he cut it off. I was still around, and I'm kind of looked at him like, how would you do that? And he's just
yeah. That venue's had the same guys for a lot of years.
Yeah. I don't know.
One of my favorite venues.
The audience is so cool. The people working there are so cool. It's just it's a fun environment to go hang out in. It's good stuff.
It's the whole vibe.
I got one question I'm asking some people. I haven't asked everybody, but I was like, I'm going to start a podcast, and my friend's 5th grade daughter was there with her 2 5th grade friends. And she said, well, we have a question you need to ask people. And I'm like, yeah, what's your question? When did you first feel famous? And I was like, you know what? It's a better question than they realized. And it was because you don't need to be quote unquote famous to feel famous. When in your careers did you look out maybe and smile from ear to ear and feel, I say famous, but maybe it was successful, like you had done something? There's times, guys.
Yeah.
People like you guys. People like you guys.
Well, I don't know. I've never felt famous. I think, I keep going back to my very first gig.
Yeah.
I just kept pinching myself because I was a huge Frank Zappa fan.
Oh, it's hard not to be.
Growing up, in the mid to late 70s, early 80s, and I went to work for him in 84. I couldn't believe that I was working for Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
And for me, it just keeps going back to that. Another one was Def Leppard.
Yeah.
Because I was a punter when Def Leppard was opening for Ozzy. When Randy Rhoads was still alive. I went to that show, and a few years later, I'm Rick Allen's drum tech. Just things like that you kind of go, well, how did that happen?
Did you ever tech for Mick Fleetwood?
No.
All right.
Never did.
The guy the other day was saying he sets his toms up in a different order, and he's like, and I don't know why. I was like, that's interesting.
Well, he's like 6.
Because he wants to.
Yeah, because he damn well wants to. That's why.
Right.
That's famous. That's crazy. Well, I was the janitor in Paradise Theater. That's as famous as I'll ever be. So some kids would recognize me from the video.
That's cool.
And they go, hey, there's the janitor. I'm like, yeah, great.
I think we all need those moments where you just, I don't know, you feel special. You know, something happened. It doesn't have to be a big event.
Well, it happened tonight. It happened a long time. I brought my parents to a show.
Oh, that's great.
And they were amazed at what it takes to put on a show. And I got to show them, you know, because they had no idea what I did. And I got to show them what I did. And to me, that was one of the best days of my life. You know,
that's a good thing.
Treated them like gold with Styx. They were, you know, it was to see these two little old Jewish people, you know, going through catering. Oh, and you get this every day. I mean, it was just an amazing day to show them what I did. So
it's a joy doing that. It's a joy to show, particularly, you know, family. And if they're older family, you know, like when I was younger, when we actually, you know, had older family that was still alive.
Right.
It was a great joy. Well, one of the other things for me was being in, I'm actually in a Poison video, pretty famous video, Every Rose. So I'm actually in that video, but yeah. See if you can find it.
I'll have to rewatch it this evening. I brought my dad to a show to see STP. And so he finished it and he goes, Godsuck. They're the better band. Definitely better. I'm like, it's Godsmack, Dad. He was like, them, whatever. Much better. Very, very good. Very, very good. So it was funny. My dad used to race cars, and when he sat on that tour bus, to him, it was the neatest thing ever. Just sitting in the chair, just like, oh my God, this really is what a machine. You know, can I look at the engine? So he was a car mechanic. So it's just those little things. It's standing in catering where they're looking at you, genuinely thinking like, this is fantastic. Lucky you.
You get this every day?
Every day.
Yeah, that's what my mother said. And she said, you sleep in there? You sleep in that little shelf in there? I said, yeah, there's a bunch of other people in here too. So.
Well, it must be good to know they're proud of you. Has to be make you
I guess the best day of my life.
Yeah. It's good.
I would have paid big money for that.
When your mother's proud of what you do, it definitely comes full circle for you.
Oh,
yeah.
Most definitely. I mean, it did for me.
Yeah.
You know, because for the longest time, you know, it was well, you know, really, what are you doing? Where are you at? She liked the fact that I was actually doing I was doing what I always wanted to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like I said, I tried a lot of other things and they just didn't, you know, just like, you know, I don't know, you know, and you're young enough to make the switch, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's a passion. It's a passion.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm in Rock and Rio, and Charlie going to the production office. I just call my mom. I got nothing to do. And so I finish up the call. I hang up. I'm English. My mom's English. So Charlie Hernandez looks at me and goes, you don't tell your mom you love her? Oh, no, Charlie. No, that would not be good. She'd think something's wrong. And he's like, you call her now. Oh, no. You fucking work for me? You fucking call your mother back right now. You fucking tell her you love her. Yeah. All right, Charlie. So I go to the phone, I pick it up and I call my mom. I'm like, I just want you to know, Mom, that I love you. Oh my God, is everything all right? So I told him, like, what did you do that for? He goes, good job. You. Get out. Go sit by the pool. Get out. Go.
Classic Charlie.
That was good. You tell your mother you love her. Yes. Okay. All right.
Every call. I never missed one.
Yeah.
No regrets.
Well, I really appreciate you two taking the time to talk to me today. You know, a lot of these I've been like giving people a hard time. I wanted to be a bit careful with you guys because I think a lot of us respect you so much. You know, thank you for hiring so many roadies, giving people careers, giving people stories. You know, being you and you know, loving the industry. Thank you guys. You know,
thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. And with Keith.
Yeah. I think we did good.
It's really cool. Well, I look forward to seeing you both doing stuff that you love to do very soon. And I'll keep bugging you. I'll keep bugging you. Thanks for watching Party Like a Rockstar. If you're not already subscribed to the Facebook or YouTube channels, do it. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The handle is Party of Stars. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.